A very good evening to you and welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. My apologies, I wasn't on last Monday. I was pretty ill, in bed for most of the week. So my apologies for not being online last week, but I hope you're all well. And what am I going to talk about? Well, there's quite a few things to discuss this week. There's, of course, the back to winning ways. The last two games we won against Cup and League opposition. There's quite a few updates on playing news. And of course, we look forward to our second game in the Europa League this coming Thursday against quite an unknown side in FC Freiburg. So I'm going to give you an update on all of that. But first of all, we've got to start with, of course, another great player of the past has passed away today. Rest in peace, Francis Lee, 79 years of age. Francis Lee suffered a long battle with cancer. Man City legend, of course, and an England international as well. So our condolences go out to Francis Lee and his family and all these players that I remember growing up sort of watching and everything, just one by one passing away. Right. Why don't we do a bit of Hammers headlines updates? I'll give you a sort of a brief rundown on some other general Hammers news, shall I? And of course, you know what I'm going to start with, don't you? Well, the Women's League is back in action, back in the Super League at the weekend with new manager and new team captain. This was Rehanne Skinner's first league game as manager of West Ham United after joining us in the summer when she used to manage Spurs. And it was also Mackenzie Arnold's first game as team captain for West Ham after her superb performances for Australia in the Women's World Cup. Unfortunately, first game of the season, the women's team played Man City at home and got beat 2-0. So good luck to them in the next game. The under-21s were in action at the weekend. They were also up against Manchester City. A resolute showing from West Ham United's under-21 development squad saw goals from Callum Marshall and Gideon Kudus to secure a point in a hard-earned draw against Man City away from home. West Ham United now moved to 7th in the league, 4 points behind league leaders Spurs, with an impressive performance against the defending champions, Man City. That was Callum Marshall's 10th goal of the season, by the way. He scored 8 in the league and 2 in the English Football League trophy so far this season. A great prospect, without a doubt. The under-18s were also in action at the weekend with goals from Emeka Adiele as well as Daniel Rigg. Saw West Ham United beat Norwich City under-18s to 2-0 to extend their winning run to 4 games in the under-18s Premier League Division South. A valuable 3 points and a stunning performance as well. Saw the young West Ham team move to 2nd in the table with 12 points from their first 5 league games. So well done to them. Unbeaten now in 5 matches in all competitions. As for Daniel Rigg, Rigg is rumoured to be set to sign a new contract with West Ham United, a new long-term deal. The attacking midfielder has certainly caught the eye of quite a few clubs around the Premier League. He scored 3 goals and 1 assist so far in his 4 appearances, and it's suggested that 17-year-old Rigg will be soon signing a long-term deal with West Ham United. We've got some players out on loan. Nathan Trott not had a really good time after being promoted with his Danish club Vejle BK. But he picked up a point and he played extremely well in keeping a clean sheet for the Danish club on Sunday afternoon. So well done to them. He's playing his second consecutive season in Denmark. He helped the team draw to a 0-0 against FC Nordsjælland, who are currently ranked 3rd in the table. So that's good for Trott and it's good for Vejle because they're not doing too well at the moment. They lie in 11th place in the league and face the prospect of getting relegated straight after coming up. Another player on loan, Freddie Potts, was tasted victory for League One outfit Wycombe Wanderers. They battled to a 2-0 win over Carlisle United on Saturday. Wycombe now moved from their first 9 games. And also another player that tasted victory at the weekend was Flynn Downs, who won on Saturday Southampton against Leeds United. The Saints now move to 10th in the table with 4 wins from the first 9 league games. So well done to them. I'm going to come up onto the senior squad and what we've done over the past week. But first of all, let's go into the chat because see the chat is quite busy already. Good evening to you, Razor. How are you? The problem once again is Moyes, not Kudus. Get him out of the club before we lose our top players. I think that's a part of the title I put about Mohamed Kudus and how do we fit him in. We'll talk about that later on because I've got, well, they're my theories, not saying they're right, but we're going to talk about West Ham United and the players we have and how David Moyes can actually fit Kudus into the starting lineup for the Premier League. Good evening, Hammers Mikey. And quite rightly so. Let's get rid of the no good stains at the club. Johnson, Creswell, Ings, and ball greedy Benny. Got some interesting views on 1 or 2 of those players as well. Good evening, Hammerette. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Graham. I hope you're well. Thanks for joining, mate. Good evening, usual. Good evening to you, Sean. I hope you're well. Can't believe I was early. I'm not. Good evening, Daniela. First of all, sympathy to the family of Francis Lee. Yeah, absolutely. My first game, West Ham versus City, around 1973, and many times on TV. Daniela, those were the days, weren't they? Proper. The big match on a Sunday afternoon because I wasn't allowed to stay awake to watch Match of the Day on a Saturday night. So you watched all the highlights on Sunday afternoon. Sorry, we're not sacking Moyes. The players are behind him and Kudus will have his time. He will be playing 48 plus games this season, depending on cup runs. Good shout. Good evening to you, Debbie and Mark. The real question that everyone will be asking is, do we have a stellar season this year and win a trophy or get Champions League or European football again? Do you renew Moyes' contract or go for change? Well, mate, honestly, if David Moyes gets us to win another trophy or gets us into the Champions League or gets us into European football again, seriously, I mean, what do you then do? Do you then turn around and say, thanks very much, goodbye? I don't know. Good evening to you, Andy. I hope you're well. Sorry, Daniela. Kudus is unwanted by Moyes. I don't know how you know that, Andy. Hence why he won't start him. And his number 2 came on publicly stating he ain't ready. Well, I'll let me suggest to you later in the show why Kudus is not starting in the Premier League just yet. And I hope you might see the reasons for it. And I don't believe for a minute that David Moyes doesn't want Kudus. Don't listen to this, please, mate. I mean, you know, we have good banter between you and I, but to suggest that Kudus is unwanted by Moyes is it's a step too far, really. It's very early in the season. Howard, good evening to you. I hope you're well, mate. I'm very well. Well, I am now, apart from this man flu that I had. Let's scroll down. Who else do we have? Andy again. Good evening, Stel. Good evening. Good evening to you as well, mate. I hope you're well. Mark. Good evening, Stel. Good evening, mate. I'm sure you enjoyed our first half performance against Sheffield. I did. But what did you think of our second half? I'll come to that in a moment because I'm going to talk about the Lincoln game as well as the Sheffield United game. Professional shutout or unnecessarily boring, apart from Kudus's brilliance? Probably a bit of both. Was it unnecessarily boring? I'll come to it in a minute. Martin, good evening to you. I hope you're well. For me personally, the great start to the season rolls on. It does indeed. You know, we've only lost 2 games. I thought that, you know, I didn't do the review of Liverpool, etc., because I was off sick. But I thought, you know, the 3-1 defeat to Liverpool was the score line didn't reflect the game. I don't think. I think we were unlucky to lose 3-1 in that game. But anyway, that was months ago. So we'll forget about it. Matt, I hope you're well. Good evening to you. Good evening to you, Adam. I hope you're well. Good evening, Mr. Lawler. How are you? Again, catch me on a plane from Calgary, Alberta to Dallas, Texas. I'm so sorry. Safe flight, mate. Safe flight. Matt, again, is this Thursday our European ban? It is, unfortunately, which is why I'm not making plans to get over to Germany. I'm afraid, you know, we are stuck here. You know, I'm going to have to look for a link. I'm not going to promise, I might even do a watch along. Do you think I should? I don't know. Good evening, Flemmer. How are you? We got 3 points against the poorest team. The test is now if we don't beat Villa, they're no mugs, and Newcastle, they're flying. Then let us know that we progress under Moyes. Well, good points. You know, I think those are 2 important. Well, we've got 3 important games coming up. We've got, of course, Freiburg first, and then Newcastle, and of course Villa. You know, they're all doing well. So let's see how we fare against them. Yeah, good points. Juha, good evening to you. I hope you're well, mate. Let's scroll down. George, good evening to you. Another 3 points. Overall, good start to it has been a good start to the season. I think many fans probably suggest that, or not suggest, probably they did suggest that we weren't going to do as well this season. And I think Moyes has done very well so far. The defeat against Man City, the defeat against Liverpool, all right, we should be trying to beat these top teams. Of course, we should be trying to beat every team. But other than that, I think we've done extremely well. David again. No worries, Daniela. Already have. Stella gives a great, really enjoys. Thank you. Appreciate that. Really do. Who else have we got? Ralph. Evening, Andy. All is good here. Yeah, I'm glad you're all saying hello to each other. It means I can just skip through these quickly. Aaron, hello, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening, Lord Patrick. How are you? And good evening, Lee. You're going to say something, but whatever it is, I hope you're well. Matt again. Only 9 likes when there is 60 of us. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button, the bell notification. I've even got a new studio for you. We've moved, by the way. We finally moved home, and I've set up the... I don't know if it sounds echoey, so you're going to have to tell me if it sounds all right. But I've actually got a proper studio set up, which means all of this stuff, I don't have to... If I ever want to move any of the background, it's because I want to rather than having to. So that's the old background there. I got Ray, who sent me that Sufal top about 4 years ago. I finally managed to put that up. I've got a whole load of other stuff that I want to eventually put up. Yeah, I'm happy. Where are we? Flemmer. The only positive thing in the last 2 years is West Ham United supporters, other than that, fuck off. Oh, well, what about finishing 6th and 7th and Europe for 3 seasons in a row and winning a trophy? Isn't that good? Ralph, the next 3 games in the Premier League would define our season, in my humble opinion. They won't define our season. They would give us an indication of how well we're doing or how well we're not doing. Certainly, though, games against Newcastle, games against Villa, they're going to be tough. And, we're going to be up against it without a doubt. Paul, good evening to you. Sheffield had 8 players missing. Won't get an easier game. But it was an easy game, wasn't it? I'll get on to, like I said, I'll get onto that in just a moment. Sorry, I'm late, Stel. Can I have a recap, please? I think you were as early as me, so no recap, I'm afraid. Usual. Is it true, Pat Butcher? Sorry, I mean, Anthony Gordon is out for Newcastle at the weekend. I believe so, but I don't know. I think he is, but then they've got a decent squad, haven't they? Good evening to you, James. I hope you're well. Good evening, all you European champions and the losers amongst us too. Glad to see where you started off, mate. Adam. The problem with Antonio is he's poor when not in beast mode. He should have come off earlier for me and Kudus on at halftime. Don't disagree with that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Antonio and some of the other players as well. Sean, first Chinese player to play for England in England, lead to 1 pen. Bad joke, mate. Funky T, good evening to you. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. We're going strong, 7th place. Newcastle game is such a big game. It is indeed, but we've got a lot of big games coming up. And I'm going to give a reason why I think the second half of the Sheffield United game, what was played out the way it was, because of the big games that are coming up. Bear with me. I'll get to it in a minute. Matt, opinions on them Muppets slagging off Brady Lowry, scumbags. Hope they get absolutely disgusting, to be honest with you. I couldn't. I was like, what are they doing? Are they actually serious? It was poor. Very, very poor taste. Good evening, Montana. How are you, mate? That Sheffield game didn't look good. Antonio looked leggy. I don't disagree with that. We need a new striker, and I don't disagree with that as well. Kudus, the jury is still out. I don't know. I think he's got, there's quite a lot of good in him. And I'm going to talk about Kudus and how we might be able to accommodate him in the first 11 in the Premier League. Good evening, David. How are you? I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Hammerette. I've heard about this young striker on the books. Pretty good by all accounts and plays in the same mould as Antonio. You never know. Take your pick. Mumbama, Callum Marshall. We've got the 17-year-old Daniel. He's more attacking midfielder. Daniel Rigg. We've got a lot of good players coming up, to be quite honest with you. Montana again. Honestly, if we get a slightly progressive manager like Emery, the football would be more watchable. But till then, I guess Moyes' ball will still rule. Yeah, I get it. I know people want to be entertained. I totally get that. The first half of the Sheffield game was entertaining. I think the first goal we scored was a superb goal. Brilliant setup. But yeah, agreed. The second half was nothing to write home about. Thank you, mate. Thank you for much appreciated. Debenham Dave, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening, Obsidian. How are you, mates? I hope you're well. Evening all. Kudus in, Moyes out. Montana, fair play to Gerd. He improved, was proactive, but it's only Sheffield, so I can't read too much into it. Well, you got to give credit where credit's due. He, after the couple of games that he's had, mistakes that he's made, etc., you would have thought that he would have been quite nervous in the game against Sheffield, but Moyes has kept faith with him, and he delivered, didn't he? He was better. I get what you're saying. You know, they weren't very good up front at all, Sheffield United. But Gerd, you're absolutely right. He still had to do a job there. Good evening, Sarif. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Leaving tomorrow, are you? Oh, what a shame. Coming back to the rain and the it was absolutely heaving it down earlier on. Welcome back, mate. I hope you had a good time. Good evening, CC. I'm all so excited for this season. Even booked a hotel so I can go to Arsenal Cup game. Well done. Glad you're going to that. We're going to beat them. We're going to beat them. Not only are we going to beat them in the cup, we're going to beat them in the league as well. Let's scroll down to one or two one or two people we haven't said hello to. Stu, good evening to you. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Nice to see you here. Epic, Kudus was a panic bite. No, I don't think so. I don't know. Why would you say? I don't know. I'd like to understand your reasoning behind that. Montana. Now that Souček is scoring, Kudus will have to wait a long time. Well, I'm going to get into that. Give me a moment and I will get into that. Sharky, good evening to you. Does anyone know if Kudus is unwanted by Moyes? Hi to everyone. I don't know where it's coming from. I'd like to know where that sort of where that rumour's come from, but I don't believe if he wasn't wanted by Moyes, he wouldn't get any game time at all. Andrew, Kudus will become a first-team regular, no doubt, with 50-plus games on the horizon, and the squad is going to be utilised. People need to calm down and relax. I agree. That's what I think as well. I think it's early days. I think, we've got a lot of games to come, not only in the Premier League, but also in cup competitions as well. We want to push for every competition we're in, and why not? And Kudus will get game time. There's absolutely no doubt about it. So I do think we need to be a bit more relaxed. It's too early in the season yet. If we were halfway through the season and Kudus was only a bit part player, I would say otherwise. But it's very early. Jack, I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Hammerette, Alvarez will be on a ban for the Villa game. Can see Kudus coming in then. Souček and JWP in midfield. Is he on a ban? Yeah, I know he picks up quite a few cards, doesn't he? Usual, but boy, what a player. Do you think Arteta will play number 41? You know what? I think it's going to be interesting to see how both teams line up in the cup games, how seriously we both take it. I've got a feeling we're going to put out a very, very strong team. Will Arteta do the same? Don't know. I would suspect he might want to because it kind of breaks that thing, doesn't it? Instead of Declan Rice starting a game in the cup against us, maybe Arteta will want to break the ice and play him in the cup competition instead. Aaron, from the fans' position, it was boring, but as Moyes is it's a great result. Killed the game in the first half. Cruised to a 2-0 win. No injury players. Barely got tired. That's what I'm thinking. It's exactly what well, let me go into that from there, because that's exactly my thoughts, to be quite honest with you. Look. First of all, the game against Lincoln last Wednesday, after two defeats against City and Liverpool, we're back to winning ways. In the third round of the League Cup, we made hard work of Lincoln, to be quite honest with you. Now, what was really frustrating is we saw only highlights, and we only, from most of us, we only listened to it on the radio as well. But from what I kind of got, and this is the start of my conversation about the players that aren't really kind of doing it at the moment. I think that Fabianski certainly kept us in the game with a couple of decent saves. I think Mavropanos in centre-back played extremely well. Johnson came in, and from what I understand as left-back, he actually, did pretty well, all things considered. But it's a shame that there were some players like Danny Ings missed a couple of chances. Matthew Cornet, you kind of ask yourself, why is Cornet not playing more, not getting more game time in the Premier League? And then you hear the kind of performance he put in against Lincoln, and you go, well, there's your answer. And then Saeed Benrahma. Now he's blowing hot and cold this season. Great performances for us last season. He just hasn't come. He hasn't started the season as he finished it, which is a real shame, to be quite honest with you. And so, given that, you kind of start to think to yourself, David Moyes, we kind of know what he wants to do. He seems to have one team for the Premier League and one team for cup competitions. Whether you think that's right or wrong, I don't know. I don't think it's right. I like to see a bit of a mixture. But when you've got certain players not performing, it kind of puts a little bit of concern in your head. And we had a few players misfiring in the game against Lincoln. I think we kind of got away with it. We got the only goal, I think, in the 69th minute, when Thomas Souček scored the winner from a set piece. And that kind of gave us the win that we needed. But it wasn't that convincing a performance. But we move on. We're into the next round, as people are saying. We've now got Arsenal in the next round, and we've got them at home as well, which is a big advantage too. And then we move on to the weekend. We move on to the game against Sheffield United. And let's be honest, don't disagree with what was said. Oh, by the way, the player of the match against Lincoln for us, for anyone that was listening, was obviously Kudus. He had a star performance in that game. And then we moved on to Saturday. And let's be honest, the first half we started, it was comfortable. We were passing the ball around. We had a lot of possession. We were at ease. Everybody knew their job. We were spraying the ball around really well. And then when we were ready, we found opportunities to break Sheffield United down. And that first goal that we scored, the Bowen goal, was a superb piece of team play. Fantastic piece of play. The one touches to players, etc. Soufal crossing the ball in, and then Bowen getting on the end of it. I mean, if I don't know, if Arsenal had did that, or if Man City had done that, or if another so-called big team had done that, everyone would be waxing lyrical. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that fantastic? West Ham United did that, and it was like, it was shrouded by what happened in the second half, because the second half wasn't as good. And I think it's a shame, because I think we had an exceptional performance in the first half. All right, it was only against Sheffield United, but you can only play who you have in front of you. And I think we did exceptionally well. And then, of course, the killer blow for Sheffield was when we scored our second goal with Souček taking his goal. Now, Antonio didn't play very well, hasn't played very well for the last few games. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, he comes up with something that you go, well done, Antonio. But that was the only thing that Antonio did. But Souček on the end of it, look how freely Thomas Souček is playing again now. Why? Because we have a defensive midfielder. I don't know if you remember before during the summer, I said if there's only one signing that we make in the summer transfer window, it's got to be a defensive midfielder, because that will galvanize our midfield. It will change the way we play. And Alvarez, the signing of Alvarez, has done exactly that. And what have we got? We've got a Thomas Souček who's a little bit freer in midfield, who's now beginning to score goals. It's his third goal. He's scored 3 goals so far this season, which ain't bad for a midfielder who's meant to be rubbish. So once that second goal went in, half-time, etc., the game was really over. Now I get it. Look, apart from the 8-0 anomaly that Sheffield United suffered against Newcastle, they've only conceded 2 goals in every other game that they played. They played Man City, they played Spurs, etc., and they've only conceded no more than 2 goals. Okay, we could have gone for the jugular, and I totally get people's opinions of, if the season comes to goal difference, we missed our opportunity, etc. Look, I think someone said it a little bit earlier on. I think it was Andrew or someone like that. The game was won. All we had to do in the second half was go out and control the game. We didn't have to go into second gear, third gear, etc. We were taking it easy. We had our foot off the pedal. We just passed and moved, and we didn't have to do any more than that. We even had a few chances. We missed a few, squandered a few more chances in the second half, but we didn't have to do any more. I think it was a professional performance. I get it. Fans go there, they want to be entertained, they want to see us knocking in 6, 7 goals, etc., against the bottom of the side club. I get that. But given the games that we've got coming up, like I've just mentioned, we've got Freiburg coming up, and then we've got Newcastle at the weekend. David Moyes is going to have a very, very serious decision to make as to who he plays in the game against Freiburg, and then who he keeps fresh for the game against Newcastle. So given that we won the game in the first half against Sheffield United, I totally understand, and I totally get why we took our foot off the pedal. All right, for the spectator, it's not so great. But We've now played only 45 minutes, if you really think about it, against Sheffield United. And now we're fresh. Moyes can, if he needs to, and I'm going to get onto team news in a minute, who I think he's going to pick for the Freiburg game. He's got players fresh. He's got players that haven't exerted themselves, that have gone out there. They've done the job in the first half, and we got the result that we needed. Look, I know it wasn't pretty. I know it wasn't great, but look at the first half. If we wanted to, we could have done it in the second half as well. There was no need. The game was won. I know you probably have differences of opinions, and I'm sure I'm going to look at those in a moment. Jared Bowen, we're talking about him. He's now our highest goal scorer this season on 5 goals, I think it is, in all competitions, or in just the Premier League. And a lot of people are saying that Bowen doesn't want to stay at West Ham United because he doesn't like playing under David Moyes. I said the last time I was on, the comments that Bowen made, and I put them up on the screen. Bowen's more than happy. And the negotiations are ongoing. And what his entourage or his agents want is that he becomes the highest paid player in the team. At the moment, the highest paid player, from what we understand, is Lucas Paqueta at around about 130 to 150 grand a week. So in order to make Bowen the highest paid player, it's got to be over that. They're looking at about 160 to 175,000 pounds a week. Will they get it? I don't know, but I think they'll get near as damn it. But what West Ham will also want to do is they don't want Bowen. He's got 2 years left on his contract. They're going to want him to commit to at least double that. So expect to see. It's not going to happen anytime soon. From what I was told today, over the next couple of months, Bowen will be signing a new contract. It'll be for probably at least 4 years, and it will probably be for around 160, 170 grand a week. Is he worth it? Well, he's worth his weight in gold at the moment, isn't he? So we look forward to that as well. So with that, there are players who are not delivering. There are players who are over delivering. And so David Moyes has got choices that he has to make. Now, I'm going to go into team selections and other player news in a moment. But first of all, let's go back into your chat. Let's scroll down. What have we got? Montana. There is no reason to give Declan stick. Never acted like many entitled players who seek to move. That's true. Agree with that. Hammer it. Even JWP came out saying he has also wanted more goals in the second half. Love that. I'm sure the team wanted to score more goals, but, do you agree with Moyes' tactics that the job was done, or do you think he should have gone for the jugular? John, good evening to you. When you manage, you can only do it on merit. You drop a player when he's not doing the business. Who deserves to be dropped? Good point. And I'm going to come to that in a moment. Andrew, the one player who hasn't done himself any favours this season has to be Cornet, given the opportunities by Moyes and fluffed every chance. Big disappointment. Totally agree. Just mentioned that he had a great he's been given a couple of chances. He played against TSC. He played against Lincoln. He hasn't really delivered, to be quite honest with you. Paul, good evening to you. I was so grateful that you did the lady stuff first, though, as I turned up 10 minutes late and was able to just fast forward. I learnt my lesson. Good evening, Ray. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Usual. Fine, thanks. All saying hello to each other. Graham. Stell, I'm glad you survived the plague. Thank you very much. Plus, you sound pretty good over here, and I'm 5,000. I'm glad. Great. I'm glad it's all coming across clearly. Good evening to you, Black Country. I hope you're well. David N. All the best to you. Thank you very much, mate. Have to say it's harsh on the likes of Benny and Fornals when Souček can play so many bad games but finally turns the corner. I get that. I don't disagree with that. I think for Benrahma, I think he got it. He started in the games, didn't he? But he's kind of fallen away. There's something not right with Benrahma at the moment. But he did start a few games. So, but with the likes of Fornals, I kind of agree with you. Fornals doesn't seem to have gotten the chance that Souček has. But Souček has turned the corner. I do agree with that. Good evening, Douglas. I hope you're well, mate. Good evening to you, Steve. You haven't missed much at all. I'm just rabbling on about nothing. Robert, good evening to you. Ajax's last game had the keeper's resuscitation on the pitch. Ajax's last game had the keeper's resuscitation on the pitch. I don't know what happened, so you're going to have to enlighten me. And Andrew, Sheffield weren't really a test. We will see where Agerd is in the next 3. You know what? Agerd, I don't disagree. I think Mavropanos is breathing down a Gerd's neck because Mavropanos, and again, all right, he's only played against TSC and he's only played against Lincoln, but Mavropanos is breathing down a Gerd's neck. The next issue or the next mistake a Gerd makes, I think Mavropanos will be in the team. Good evening to you, Jab. We need to get Tony Watkins in January to push on the next level. I'd like to think we can get Tony. Watkins, I doubt very much he'll want to leave Aston Villa. But Ivan Toney, why not go for him? I think, the big problem we keep making is that we keep buying a striker that doesn't suit Moyes' style. If there's a striker that's anywhere near to that, then maybe Ivan Toney is. Good evening, Zdenek. Good evening to you. I hope you're well. You're one of the few West Ham content creators who didn't give up on Souček. Here's your reward. Yeah, I know. And he's from the Czech Republic, so you know him very well, don't you? Jack. Sheffield game, simple fact, 3 points in the bag, was never going to be pretty. Also, were we really expecting 5 or 6? Freak result the week before. We didn't get out of first gear, so progress. This is it. You've said it. I said it as well earlier on. Exactly that. Sheffield United have only had more than 2 goals scored against them against Newcastle. Every other team they played. I'm not saying that, okay, so we got 2 goals, so we had to stop from there. But I'm trying to put it in perspective, I guess. And I think, to me, the job was done. We didn't need to get out of first gear. There was no need for it. We preserved ourselves because we've got some important games coming up. Eamon, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Tel D. Up the massive. Thank you for joining, and I hope you're well too. Sean, Moyes has been quoted as saying Johnny Heitinger had a big role to play in bringing Alvarez and Kudus to the club. It sounds like it. He's got a job. Heitinger, future manager, managing the likes of Alvarez and Kudus. Why not? Could it be that Moyes is setting Heitinger up to take over? There's a show in itself. Didn't think of that until now. Paul, any recommendations from where to stay in Cyprus? Possible holiday in March. Might be be all right. A bit coldish. April is better. Go to the east side of the country. What is this? A travel show? Go to the east side of the country, Paralimni. It's cheaper, but it's still nice. Or if you've got a lot of dosh, go to the other side of the country in Paphos. I'll send you my bill later on. Good evening, Mr. McLaren. Good to see you on Saturday. I'm glad I left when I did. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd have got home at all. Good evening, Keith. I hope you're well. No problem at all. You haven't missed much. Not a lot really at all. Good evening to you, John. I hope you're well. Should have spent 35 million on Harvey Barnes. He could have played left wing and up front. Kudus, great player, not needed. I quite like having Kudus, to be quite honest with you. I was disappointed that we didn't go out and get Barnes because he was meant to be one of our prime targets. But I won't lie, I quite like Kudus, to be honest. But we do have a problem on the left side, don't we? Because Paqueta, he's not a proper out-and-out winger, is he? He's not. He's a left-sided player, but he prefers to play in central midfield. Ben Rama hasn't been really doing that well. So I get the point of maybe we needed an alternative there. And I would have liked Harvey Barnes, but I'm not upset with Kudus, to be honest with you. David, Lincoln game in North America. I couldn't even find a radio feed. It's disappointing. Like these lower division games, I never expect a cruise. It was disappointing that we couldn't get to see it. I bet they'll be filming. I bet they'll be televising West Ham Arsenal, though, won't they? Without a shadow of a doubt. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Paul. Keith, I'm afraid that you missed all the latest news on That's what you missed. Mark, difficult for players like Cornet and Fornals who get little game time to start a game and perform well. However, Kudus is different. He's been playing regularly and scoring, so no risk in playing. I get that. I get the whole thing about Cornet. I did ask Sean, my source, what's going on with Cornet? Why is he not getting a lot of game time, especially in the cup competitions and all that sort of stuff? And he suggested that there's still a concern about the injury that he picked up. Even though he's now back playing, he could break down at any time because this injury that he got in his calf was quite rare, quite unique. And I think there's still a concern that maybe, at some time in the season, he might break down again. Big concern, that, isn't it? And that might also answer why we probably weren't able to sell him in the summer, because he was going to go to Everton, and apparently Everton did look at his injury record and went no. So we might be stuck with him. Usual. Freiburg 6-4, West Ham 6-4, 12-5. The draw on Thursday. Oh, interesting. Andrew, 3 points, no injuries, bigger games to come. It's a long season. That's what I'm thinking, Andrew. I know people are disappointed. I mean, if anyone watched the review I did with Peter and a few other mates in the bar afterwards, everyone was disappointed that we didn't go for it in the second half. But I kind of get it. I think it was a professional job, and that's all we needed to do. Trenny, good evening to you. Why do players' agents feel that they have the right to ask that their player is the highest paid player? I thought that was earned by playing. It's what agents, the more the agents get, the more a player gets, the more the agent gets, I guess. Look, does Bowen deserve to be one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid? I think he's done extremely well for West Ham United. I think he deserves merit. And I think also, David Sullivan set the bar, hasn't he? When he came out and said that we offered Declan Rice 200 grand a week or 250 or whatever it was, he kind of set the bar. Players who are there now know how much West Ham United can afford to pay, what salaries they can pay. So they're kind of going to chance their arm. They're going to go, well, I want to be the best player. I think Bowen, I'm not one of these who advocate give them what they want. I don't like that. Give them what they want. I think that's wrong. But give them what they deserve. Yeah. If he did, and I think at this moment in time, Bowen is probably one of our best, if not the best player that we've got at the moment. Hammerit, do we have an update on Bowen coming off at the end of the Sheffield game? Absolutely nothing. He probably won't play on Thursday, but the injury is just a knock and absolutely no problem at all. Douglas, anyone that is not a Moyes fan will always say he did the wrong thing. Well, that's true. Absolutely. I think, sometimes you've got to give a bit of credit where credit's due. And David Moyes has had an awful lot of stick from the fan base. And I get it. We had an awful season last season in the Premier League. But look at this season. We're doing extremely well. We're winning games. We're 7th in the league. We're in Europe for a 3rd season in a row. Let's see how the season pans out. Andrew. He's going to be the highest earner at the club. I think he deserves it, as genuinely seems to love the club. And this is it. He genuinely does seem to love the club. So all these rumours that he's unhappy, he doesn't want to play under Moyes, he wants to go off and play elsewhere. Rumours. And that's all they are. But what they do is they do fuel social media, because of course you don't want good stories. You want the heart, the stories that are doom and gloom, and that brings a lot of people to social media. Robert Stelman, Barman wasn't in the first team squad and wasn't in the under-21 squad. Any reason? Do you know? No, I don't. I'm not surprised he's not been in the first team squad lately. Although I don't think it's right. I think he should be. But in terms of the under-21 squad, no, I don't. I think perhaps maybe he's either got a knock or he'll be readied. I'm really hoping, even though I've not put him in my first team, I'm really hoping we're going to see a lot more of him this coming Thursday. Trini, the way Moyes gives the rest of the squad games is not fair. He drops them all in. The way Moyes gives the rest of the squad games is not fair. He drops them all in at time, only after giving them 5 minutes in the Premier League. How can they be ready without games? I guess that's why Moyes is trying to pick two different teams, one for the Premier League and one for cup competitions, and giving those players game time. We've got regular cup games coming up. We've had Lincoln. We had TSC before that. We've got Freiburg coming up. We've got Olympiacos. We've got we've got games coming up. We've got Arsenal in the cup. These players will get game time. I get what you're saying, and maybe they deserve a little bit more time in order to get themselves up to speed. I don't disagree with that. But the games that they are given an opportunity to play in, you expect them to do rather well, and some of them are not delivering. Hammerit, I don't think Paqueta looked bad at all last game, starting on the left. It's not like he stayed on the wing for any length of time. If it means getting Kudus on the pitch too, I think you're right. I think Paqueta cuts in, and I think he's got a good understanding with Emerson behind him. A good sort of relationship where he knows if he cuts in, Emerson is going to cover for him. Steve, I watched the Di Canio interview. Jordan is a muppet. I haven't watched it, so I will watch it, and I'll try and give my opinion. Andy, it's not dropping players still. It's knowing how to retake players. I don't think that Moyes' fault line, flogging players to death. I agree with that. I get that. David Moyes has had a habit in the past of playing players, players that I guess it comes back to this kind of thing of what I've been saying about players who are kind of on the fringes of the Premier League starting lineup now. They need to deliver. I think Mavropanos is delivering. I think Johnson, I was pleased for him in the performance that he put in. I think even Fabianski in goal had a good performance. I think Kudus had a good performance in the cup against Lincoln. But there are other players, Ben Rama, Cornet, who's just been mentioned, didn't deliver. So that must put thoughts into Moyes' mind when it comes to playing players. Who does he pick? I think he's got a massive dilemma on Thursday. But on that, let me go into that part of the show. So, the two games that we've got coming up, Freiburg on Thursday and then Newcastle at home on Sunday. As I've already said, David Moyes, he's kind of, when you look at the kind of team he picks, this is at the moment, his preferred Premier League lineup. You've got Areola in goal, and then the back four of Soufal, Zuma, Agerd, Emerson, and then your midfield, of Bowen, Ward-Prowse, Alvarez, Souček, and Paqueta, and then up front, Antonio. Now, at this moment in time, to be quite honest with you, of those players, people are asking, okay, I want Kudus in. I've got a theory. I'll come to it in a moment. But of those players there at the moment, the only player that you could say is probably not delivering, gone off the ball a little bit, is Antonio. And so then when you look at the midfield and you start asking, well, okay, I want to fit Kudus in there. Who are you going to drop? Which of them? Bowen, Ward-Prowse, Alvarez, who's been phenomenal, Souček, who's now back in form, or you're going to drop Paqueta. You're not going to drop, at this moment in time, you're not going to drop any of those five midfielders. And then when you look at the European games, the cup competitions and Europa League, etc., this is more or less the lineup that David Moyes goes for. So he's got Fabianski in goal. He's got his defense with Mavropanos, Ogbonna, Kera. And then if Creswell was fit, he would have played. But otherwise, Johnson is now fitting in at left back. And then in the middle, he's used a few different Premier League choice players, if you want to call it that, in Ward-Prowse, and Souček has played as well. Fornals is getting game time. Ben Rama is getting game time. Cornet started to get game time. And then he's got Kudus, and then he's got Ings up front. And as I mentioned a moment ago, when you look at that lineup, the players that haven't quite delivered have been the likes of Ben Rama, Ings, and Cornet. So that puts a little bit of doubt in David Moyes' mind. What does he do? When it comes to having to pick a team on Thursday night and wanting to rest some of the Premier League players in order to have them fresh for Sunday, what does he then do? Because Ings is not delivering. I think a lot of people who say Mbama should start, I don't disagree with them. Give the boy a chance, because if he hasn't been given a chance so far, then why has he not been sent out on loan? Because if he's not getting the opportunity to play and demonstrate what he's capable of doing, then the boy should have gone out on loan. So when you've got the problem of Ben Rama, and when you've got the problem of Ings, and when you've got the problem of Cornet, you need to start thinking about, well, do I start bringing in Ward-Prowse again, and Souček again, and Paqueta again, and Bowen? Well, Bowen's in, but Bowen's got a knock. He's not too bad. He'll be all right for Newcastle. But then, and Antonio, do I bring in Antonio again? Because when you start doing that, you then have a fear of how are they going to get through the Freiburg game in order to be ready for the game against Newcastle at the weekends. And I think this is possibly the lineup that David Moyes is going to go for on Thursday. He's going to go for a little bit more experience, a little bit more strength. I think the back line will stay the same. I think Johnson will start, and Kera, Mavropanos, etc. I think quite possibly the back line with the keeper will be the same. I think Kudus should play. I think he will then be forced to bring in a couple of more midfielders than maybe he would have liked to. And also, quite possibly, I wish he would play Mbama, but I've got a feeling he might play Antonio up front on Thursday. Because if he does that, you can kind of say, all right, quite strong. Benrahma then has an opportunity to demonstrate what he can do again. Fornals has not let us down, alongside Ward-Prowse, alongside Souček, and then Kudus and Antonio up front. I think that's probably what he's going to go for. But then that kind of, like I said, what that does is it puts a little bit of fear of, if any of these players get injured, what then? What happens on Sunday, and who's he likely to end up picking? Now, strictly speaking, I don't like the idea of having two different teams, when he has almost a completely different team for the cup competitions than he does for the Premier League competitions. I get it. It kind of rests players, but I like to have a bit more of a mix. So maybe Moyes on Thursday might have no choice but to have that mix in Thursday's lineup. Is that the right thing to do? Well, it will certainly win the game. We always talk about put out your best team, put out your strongest team, etc. But every time you put out your strongest team, you run the fear, of course, of having to get, of maybe seeing players getting injured and then out for the important games. Now, given that, I think possibly that might look like the sort of lineup that we're going to have on Thursday. How do you fit Kudus into a team where I already mentioned where the midfield is doing so well? Which of those players would you drop in midfield? Hand on heart. It's not going to be Paquetá. It's not going to be Alvarez. It's not going to be Ward-Prowse. It's not going to be Bowen. Ward-Prowse is delivering assists. Bowen is scoring goals. Alvarez is doing exceptionally well, which is allowing the rest of that team to function because he does what he's meant to do, sits there, defensive midfield. Paquetá, with all the flair and the skill that he's got, is not going to drop that. So all eyes are obviously going to be on Souček. Now, does Souček deserve to be dropped after now picking up form again? I think not. And I think what will happen going forward is this. I think I said when we signed Kudus that it's quite possible that he will be as an alternative to Antonio. Now, he could be an alternative with Bowen going up front and Kudus playing out wide, or it could be the other way around where Kudus plays in the middle and Bowen out on the right. Now, people are going to say, oh my God, here we go again, putting a square peg in a round hole. Not so. And the reason why not so is because in his career, Kudus for Ajax made 87 appearances. 17 of those were as a striker, of which he scored 9 goals. Before that, when he played for Danish club Nordsjælland, he played 57 appearances, 18 of those up front, and he scored 4 goals. Jarrod Bowen, 131 appearances for Hull, playing either up front or as a second striker in 12 games, scoring 12 goals. And for West Ham, he's made 22 upfront appearances for West Ham United and 165 appearances in all, scoring 9 goals. So you can see that for both of those players, it will not be an alien choice to put either of them up front. So I think this is how you fit Kudus into the team. I'm not saying just drop Antonio. What I'm suggesting is if Antonio blows hot and cold, I think that's what you do. Look what's happened with Benrahma. Benrahma has gone out. Benrahma is not being consistent and he's lost his place. And then you've got the likes of Paquetá moving out slightly to the left. And I think that's what could happen with Antonio. If Antonio doesn't continue to deliver, then what you're going to get is quite likely set up that you've got in front of you, where Kudus comes in, whether it be out wide or whether it be in the middle, with Bowen switching over. If you saw what happened in the game against Sheffield at the weekend, Kudus actually came on up front and then they switched between him and Bowen. They switched positions and then Bowen went up front. It's not an alien thing. It won't be trying to fit square pegs into round holes. It would actually work. And I think that's how you end up fitting Kudus into this lineup. To the detriment of Antonio, if Antonio maintains his form like he did at the beginning of the season, then, okay, you've got an issue. You've got a big issue as to, if Antonio's regularly starting, then you've got an issue of who else do you drop? I think it's got to be on merit. If a player starts dropping in performances, then maybe that's when Kudus comes in. But I can't see any of these players dropping form. I can't see Paquetá dropping form. Souček is getting better. Alvarez is the linchpin. What I'm more concerned about, actually, amongst anything in our midfield, is if Alvarez gets injured, then what? We seem to be a little bit lost when Alvarez goes off. couple of times it's happened now. He's come off through, I think, was it an injury a few weeks ago? And he was subbed in the game at the weekend, and then we sort of did makeshift, and Souček went into like a holding midfield, and he looked lost because it's not Souček's natural game, So I think I'm more concerned about Alvarez being dropped out of the team because of injury than I am about anyone else. But there's a problem here, but it's a good problem to have. It's an absolutely good problem to have, that you've got players who are banging on form and they're knocking on the door. And there's this thing, isn't there, about West Ham United? If you've got a Man City or a Man United or an Arsenal or a Chelsea or whatever, and they've got multi-million-pound players sitting on the bench, everyone goes, yeah, well, there you go, because they can afford it. It's Man City. Why not West Ham? Why can't West Ham United have class players sitting on the bench waiting to get their turn as well? That shows signs of progress, doesn't it? That shows signs that we've got good players, not only our first 11, but we've got another, 3-4 players on the bench that are chomping at the bit to get on because they're good enough. Mavropanos, I think, is good enough to start without a shadow of a doubt. He should be starting more games. Kudus, without a shadow of a doubt, he should be starting more games. Kera, I think he's done all right. He should be starting more games. I think that's the way we show progress. That we do have a squad. And as someone said earlier on about, burning these players, playing these players time in, time out, absolutely knackering them out. And then we've got nothing else. Now we've got a squad where we know we've got decent backup on the bench. What I'm hoping for, I think Fornals is just as good, to be quite honest with you. I know Fornals is likely to go, but I actually think Fornals is as good as any of the first 11 that I've just shown you there. So isn't that what we want? Don't we want proper strength in depth? That means, unfortunately, that proper strength in depth means that some of the players that are really, really good are going to have to sit on the bench. You've got that in other clubs. You've got that in other clubs that churn over consistent performances week in, week out, because they've got players who are on the bench who are going to be as good as the players who start. And that's where we should be at. So we shouldn't be seeing it as a bad thing that the likes of Mavropanos and Kudus and Fornals and players like that are on the bench. We should be seeing it as a good thing, because it means we've got the strength in depth that we need in order to see us through the season. I don't know if you agree with me, but we can't, I think we get stuck with West Ham United, only our best 11 players should play and no one else. And, but it shouldn't be that way. There should be a squad rotation. I don't disagree with that at all. I think we should have players that can come on and do as equally a good a job as the players that start. That's why I'm hoping that the likes of Benrahma and Cornet and players like that can sort of pick up their pace a little bit and start playing more consistently and better. And they do get an opportunity. They get an opportunity in the cup competitions in order to do that. Let's see what you say in the comments. Let's scroll down. Hamret. I can't remember seeing so many unhappy Scousers since the invention of locking wheel nuts. Well, what do you think of that? I wasn't going to mention that in the show, but all this stuff about Liverpool looking at all possibilities of what happened. Well, stone me. How about all the decisions that have gone against other teams over the past couple of years because of bad VAR decisions? If that's the case, that opens up. I don't know what Liverpool are thinking of, but if they're talking about trying to play the game again or getting some kind of compensation in points or whatever, that opens up a massive can of worms. Best thing to do, get rid of VAR. Solves all our problems. Crafty Day, you look well for the week of stuff. Yeah, thank you very much. I feel much better than I did. Keith, I used to stay just outside Iron Apple. There you go. See, Tony, sponsored by Betway. Oh, Trini, good thing we did not get Barnes, considering he's now long. Oh, is he? I didn't know that. There you go. I was duped. Someone duped me into that, didn't they? Graham. Benny has been awful this season. Doesn't warrant a starting point. Yeah, unfortunately, he's not been consistent. It's a shame, really. Andrew, would like to see Antonio move to the left wing, Kudus on the right, play Bowen up front. He's more than capable to lead the line. Now he's ready. Same question again. If you did that, Andrew, who out of that midfield are you dropping in order to accommodate Antonio and Kudus? Because it's a tough one. So you put Antonio out on the left hand side. Okay, get that. And then you put Kudus in. Get that. But out of the other players, who you drop in order to accommodate? Not an easy one. Not an easy one to address. Let's scroll down. Lord Patrick, if Bowen doesn't get an England call up, then he will leave for a perceived bigger club. I don't believe that will happen either, to be quite honest with you. I do actually think will Ward-Prowse and Bowen both get call ups. They both absolutely deserve to do so. I think Gareth Southgate picks his squad later this week, isn't it? I think we've got a game against Italy and a friendly against, I'm going to say Australia, but I might be wrong. But they both absolutely deserve to do so. If Bowen doesn't get picked, will he move? No, I don't think he will. Robert, the Ajax game was abandoned when the keeper was knocked unconscious after a collision. Screen where put up any players in tears was attended to and ran to us. He's okay. Good. Thank you for updating me on that. When was that? What have I missed? Andy, hey, Broja came off injured tonight. Goal was fortunate. Broja. Don't rate him. Broja was lacking match fitness, but the quality was there to see. John, understand now why Moyes wanted him so badly. I'm not a fan of Broja. I kept saying I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. Would you, if you were given a choice of Tony or Broja, would you go for Broja or would you go for Tony? Andrew, Antonio has missed some crucial chances where I think Bowen would have taken them on current form. Antonio's a proper winger, or Antonio dropped maybe. David M. Bowen is the highest English goal scorer with 5, and yet he can't get into the player of the month side. He seems to get ignored for some unknown reason. Yeah, it's one of those things. I remember in one of my last shows I did when I mentioned that we were up for manager of the month, goal of the month, I know, player of the month, whatever it was. We didn't get one, did we? We didn't get one. Mark, Kudus could be the next Lingard for us, coming into a settled side and injecting skill and pace, taking us to the next level. Don't disagree with that. I think Kudus will get his time. But do you think I'm right or do you think I'm wrong? I don't know. Do you think as it currently stands, it's difficult to accommodate Kudus because the midfield is playing so well? But as it currently stands, the only player that currently isn't delivering at the moment, although he started the season really, really well, and I was impressed by him, is Antonio. Let's scroll down. Sean, good evening, Sean. How are you? No show tonight. We know what we are. Yeah. You're not doing your podcast tonight, Sean? Bloody hell, mate. What's going on? Either that or you finished early. Graham, Kudus came on against Sheffield and had more successful dribbles than any other player. He must play more minutes for me. I'm not disagreeing. Absolutely not disagreeing with that. I'm not saying for a moment that he shouldn't be playing more minutes, but who do you drop for him? James, Bowen definitely deserves to be on international duty. A week in the sun with his wife and kids would be perfect. Either or, I think, Andy, Graham, he also won 5 out of 5 ground duels to all in 20 minutes. Spot on. I think he's ready to start in the Premier League. I don't disagree that I think Kudus is absolutely ready, without a shadow of a doubt, to start a Premier League game. Don't deny that at all. But I ask again, who would you drop? Give me your starting 11, or better still, give me your midfield and your attacker. Who would you drop in order? I think I know the answer to this already. Who would you drop in order to accommodate Kudus? Andrew, Southgate has too many favourites. Feel sorry for players who are in form like Bowen. Can't see them getting in, especially if this is Southgate's last tournament. It's such a shame because I remember when Southgate came in to manage England and he said, players will be picked on merit. Yeah, right. Hammerit, I think Mbama will be more effective than Ings this season if he was given the same amount of minutes. I don't disagree, to be quite honest with you. I really don't disagree. I think it's such a shame. I think Moyes almost feels compelled to have to play Ings because of the salary he is on, but I don't disagree with that. Trini, Ings should not be a star. Yeah, totally agree. What else we got? Steve. Potential banana skin on Thursday as no away fans. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to talk about Freiburg in a moment. I'll give you a bit of a rundown of them. It's not going to be an easy game without a shadow of a doubt. Trini again. You don't change your winning team unless you have to, i.e. injuries. There you go. So having said that, does Kudus still start? Or do you change the team in order to accommodate him? It's a tough choice. Absolutely. Andrew. Freiburg going to be tough. They're a good outfit with hardcore fan base, similar to Frankfurt. Big test. Absolutely agree on that. Good evening to you, Volano, Media TV. Thank you for joining. We don't have a problem. He has to earn his start on West Ham like everybody else. Absolutely. Steve, isn't Bowen injured? Yes, he is. As I said on Thursday, I don't think Bowen will play on Thursday. I think he's got a knock, hasn't he? He's not out for a long term. But Bowen is not in that starting lineup. No, sorry. I think my starting lineup is likely to be something like this. I think Antonio will play. I think both Ward-Prowse and Souček will play alongside Fornals, and I think Kudus will start. You might even see other changes. You might even see an even stronger midfield. You might even see Paqueta playing as well on Thursday, because I agree with you. It's not going to be an easy game. How many of Kudus's games for Ajax up front was he a lone striker? All the ones I mentioned, he was a striker. I could have also put in as a second striker, but he played up front on his own. I think Ajax play a similar system. I think something like a 4-2-3-1 system. Correct me if I'm wrong. I only realised last week, Hammerette, that I've been spelling Souček wrong for a few years. Yeah, well, we all realised, but we just didn't want to tell you. Good evening, Vinay. Moyes will never drop Antonio. I'm not so sure about that, mate. He would rather jump into an ice bath, which would really trouble him. Moisaurus Rex. Moyes will pick him into his 40s. Look, I won't lie to you. When Antonio got his extended contract again, I was shocked. You know, he won't leave West Ham United until he's 36. You know, and I was really, really surprised that they gave Antonio another year on top of what he already had left. I won't lie. Good evening. De Pablo. Bowen has been swapping positions for quite a while now. He has. It's not just been this season. Totally agree with you. Hammerett. Bowen wants to score more goals by his own admission, so I say put him up top, see what he can do. I do believe Kudus, Antonio, Paqueta and Bowen will all take up that role at times throughout a game. Kudus, Antonio, Bowen, yes. Paqueta, well, we're pushing him further and further up front when he's sort of even himself says, I prefer to play in a deeper midfield role. Andrew, Antonio's 33, now needs to stop being a strop when sub. Totally agree with that, mate. Absolutely. Then he's got to perform if he wants to stay in the starting lineup. Sean, coming up in the second half of the show, Cat knocks Teddy off the show. Devin and Dave, our squad is as strong as I can remember. It's a very good squad. Isn't that what we want? You know, these are good problems to have. You know, to actually have players on the bench that you know can make a difference. How often in the past, you know, someone said it earlier, forgive me, I can't remember who said it, that, you know, David Moyes has driven players into the ground because he keeps playing them and playing them and playing them. Now you're starting to look at the bench and you're telling yourself, there's Fornals, there's Mavropanos, there's Kera, there's Kudus, there's several players. There's 4 or 5 players there that if you put them into the Benrahma, if you put them into the starting lineup or as coming on as subs or whatever, they should be as good as what we've already got when we started the game. Good evening, Corky. Bowen can't play as a number 9. Probably best shared between Kudus and Paqueta with them switching positions. I don't agree, but I gave you the stats earlier on. He has played not only for Hull but also for West Ham United. He can play. It's not going to be as an out and out striker, you know, sort of like right up front, but he can play that sort of that role. People call it a false number 9. James, good evening to you. Kudus will just have to leave in January if he's not getting a good. Why? Why would he leave in January? Well, why? Why would you even think that he would? That surprises me. Iron Ore, good evening to you. I hope you're wrong, James. He should be rotated. I think James is definitely wrong. P-Man, good evening to you. We need a decent striker. That I don't disagree with. Mickey hasn't long left, and yet he gets another year. Forget trying to get players to move positions, and Mbama will be at MK Dons in 3 years. Wow. I think Mbama's got a chance if he's given a chance. Like I said earlier in the show, I'm really, really surprised that Mbama either hasn't been given enough chances so far or hasn't been shipped out. I thought he'd go out. I really thought he'd go on loan this season. And the fact that we've kept him, I thought then suggested that he would be starting more cup games. And I'm really, really surprised that he hasn't. Hammerett, Kudus won't leave that soon. I'm sure we must have put in the clause for a minimum of 1 season. He won't leave anytime soon. Certainly not in January. Emsco, good evening to you. I love your analysis. You're just speaking my mind. Thank you. I appreciate that. Trini, Spuds are struggled to beat 9 men, need an own goal to win, and a goal wrongly ruled out. Yeah, this was against Liverpool. Yeah, listen, they flatter to deceive, as you already know. Arnold, why can you only drop a player, not rotate? Well, I'm not. Okay, when I say drop, I don't mean drop. I mean rotating. That's what I mean when I was putting up my different team scenarios. You know, you look at this is what Moyes is starting with for most Premier League games. This is what Moyes is starting with most cup competitions. Lineup against Freiburg, I think he's going to have a bit of a mixture. And then in order to accommodate Kudus, I think he's going to have probably in place of Antonio. Yeah, when I say drop, I think what other people have said, you either get dropped because you've either picked up an injury or you're out of form. But otherwise, yeah, rotation. Yeah, don't disagree with that. Jason, good evening to you. Joined late, so apologies if you already answered this. Who would you drop so Kudus could start? Hypothetical question, mate. I hope I've answered it. I hope you were here when I've been talking about it. And I tried to give some view as to, how Kudus could be accommodated. Like I said, this is a team that Moyes uses for Premier League. This is kind of the team, the hybrid that he uses for cup competitions. And then when it comes to putting Kudus in, I think at this moment in time, the only player that you could argue that isn't quite pulling it off at the moment is Antonio. So that's how I would accommodate Kudus. Don't know if you agree with me or not. Let's scroll down. How far behind am I? Not far, actually, which is pretty good. Devon and Dave. We have a great squad depth. Agree that the midfielders currently can't be dropped for Kudus, but Mickey can be with a reshuffle. There you go. Vinay. Moyes, ring of rice. Moyes, it's a panda. Pandering of rice. Oh, well done. Moyes' pandering of rice last season unbalanced the team. The new side with Ward-Prowse and the new look midfield has unleashed Souček. 100% agree. And I remember when I said this a couple of seasons ago, when Declan Rice started to move more forward, I suggested that wasn't good for the team. And everyone, I remember not so many people here, but I got absolute ball ache for saying that. And now it's been proven right. I'm not saying I'm some kind of, football guru, but it was obvious. We always needed a player to play that holding midfield role. I don't think it's just Ward-Prowse, but I think the biggest asset we've got in the transfer window, well, they're all great. They're all great. But the player that's made a massive difference to our style of play, and especially for Souček, is Alvarez. He's been an absolute revelation. Andrew, good evening to you. Not such a while back, Souček was extremely unpopular. What is his current view? I've always, someone said it earlier, I've always been, I got why people got on Souček is back, because there were performances where he looked really uncomfortable. He really didn't look like he was playing, enjoying his performances, etc. And yet he's come back strong. I think he's an important player. And the fact that he's important enough is demonstrated by the new contract that he only recently signed as well. Max, if it was possible, I would prefer to play 3 in defence with Alvarez close by in helping defence. Good shout. Then we could play Antonio and Kudus together up top. Not a bad shout. You'd have wing backs then, which kind of, if you play 3 at the back, that means you're going to have wing backs. You almost then means you're going to lose another midfielder, but not a bad shout. Hammerett. Bowen to start up top, Kudus on the right. If Antonio can manage being on the wing again, then be good to see him on the left and Paquetá in the middle. Can't see Moyes putting Antonio anywhere other than up top. I think Antonio is being managed. I think if you remember when Antonio kept picking up regular injuries with his hamstring, etc., it's because he was darting up and down the wing. And in order to preserve Antonio and his fitness, he plays more up top now, where he doesn't have to do all that sort of running up and down. Yes, he closes down the channels out wide, but it's different to actually hammering it up and down the wing. And I don't think we will ever see Antonio playing as a winger again, because he could pick up more hamstring injuries. Kenneth, good evening to you. Kudus is not a player to bench. Kudus scores more than Souček, and he's way better than him, period. Well, your opinion. But as it stands at the moment, Kenneth, Souček is in the team and scoring goals. But I get what you're saying. I think, like I asked earlier on, who would you drop in order to accommodate Kudus. And I think a lot of people would immediately say Souček. Andy, Stel, it would need us to go 4-3-3 formation to get Kudus, Bowen, force 9, Antonio on the left, and Kudus on the right. Paquetá, Alvarez, and JWP in midfield, so no Souček in the formation. Trini, Antonio has been misfiring, but Bowen or Kudus cannot play up front with us playing Moyes ball. I disagree. I think those players can play. It'll be slightly different. It'll still be one up front. But at this moment in time, if I was going to rotate Antonio, let's not say drop. If I was to rotate Antonio, which of the players available to me would I want to play in that middle up front? Unfortunately, it wouldn't be Ings. So it would have it for me. It would be either Kudus or Bowen. Good evening, Schizo. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Nice to see you, Adam. Drop Antonio, put Bowen up front, Kudus out wide. Antonio's been poor as a finisher for the last 3 games. That's true. And Kudus will scare Newcastle with his pace. Don't disagree with that either. But I think Antonio, it's going to depend on what happens this Thursday. What team is Moyes going to pick? And then he's going to hope beyond hope that no one picks up an injury so that they can't start against Newcastle. Mark, Andrew, not easy to sell Ings in January on those wages. Well, it wasn't easy to sell. Well, let you into another little secret. Not only were we trying to sell Cornet in the summer, we were also trying to sell Ings. But unfortunately, what you just said there, Mark, is absolutely correct. With the wages, he's been a great servant. He's been a great striker in the Premier League. We're just not going to get the best of him, are we? And to move him on, especially with the wages he's on, is not going to be easy at all. Andrew, Chelsea might need a striker in January. Not by anyone, actually. I'll take that back. Rani, good evening to you. Even harder to sell Cornet when he's in Africa. Well, yeah, we are going to have a few players missing because of the African Cup of Nations or Nations Cup or whatever it's called. P-Man, why have we not had an Antonio replacement in the squad for the last couple of years? Good question. And when we all saw Scamacca being signed, how many of us said, I know I said it, how many of us suggested that, he's more like a Hilaire than he is an Antonio? I don't understand what happened with the scouting with that one, but we certainly got that wrong. But yes, why haven't we had an Antonio replacement? And I guess a lot of people were hoping that the Antonio replacement was going to be Mbama. But unfortunately, he's not getting game time. I'd like to see Mbama play a few more games, to be honest with you. Let's see what he can actually do. David, Areola, Emerson, Agerd, Zuma, Soufal, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, Paquetá, front 3, Antonio, Kudus, and Bowen. Who are you dropping? Souček. Graham, drop Antonio and interweave between Bowen and Kudus, and defenses won't know what hit them. Good shout. Mark, yes, I think that too. I think they might go in for Tony. He's an Arsenal fan, isn't he, Ivan Toney? Would he want to go there? Hammer it. Southgate is just the epitome of monotony. Absolutely correct. Vinay, should loan Mbama to Sheffield. You know what, Vinay? That's a really good shout. Loan him out to a Premier League team who are going to struggle for goals and see what he can do. It could either make or break him. He'll either make or break him. Funky T. There is no one else in the league that does what Antonio does. Don't disagree with that. Bullies defenses, and it normally takes 2 or 3 players to defend against him. I bet the opposition breathe a sigh of relief when they see Ings on. I don't disagree with that either. But, in all honesty, how much longer can we expect Antonio to do this? And as the question was asked earlier, why have we not got an Antonio replacement in the squad already? Trini, if we had any other manager but Moyes, Mbama would be getting regular game time. I don't agree with that. I know people like to hit Moyes over the head with that he doesn't give youth a chance. But I think I've said this several times before. I said it last year, I think, when there was an analysis done on how many academy players make it in Premier League teams, and the percentage is really, really low. I think it was something like 3%, something like that. And I know people like to beat Moyes over the head with this thing about not giving youth a chance. I am disappointed that Mbama's not started more games, but I don't think he's Moyes is the only manager that doesn't always use youth. Andrew, I repeat, not such a while back, Souček was extremely unpopular. All of a sudden, he ain't so bad after all. I don't think he was ever that bad. But then I'm a bit of a maverick in that respect. But I do get, like I said earlier on, why a lot of people wanted him out the first team, out of the club. I get it. I understood it. David, Areola, Emerson, Agerd, Zuma. Have I done this one? Sufal, Alvarez, Jacobura. Yeah. It's no Souček. Usual. No, Newcastle playing Wednesday. I hope none of them get kneecapped against PSG. Good evening, Seth. How are you? Who buys an Ajax superstar? Who puts bums on the seat to come and bench him? Are we serious? Well, it is what it is. And as I keep saying, he will get game time. It's as if people think he's never going to play. He will play. He will get enough game time. Trini, let's have it right. Kudus was brought in to give Bowen competition. As Bowen started poorly last season, unfortunately for Kudus, Bowen has been on fire. I disagree with that as well. I said when we were looking at bringing Bowen in, bringing Kudus in, I said way back that I think he's competition for Antonio in the way that Moyes could utilise the squad. Johnny Mack, evening to you, mate. And all on the bench is not the problem. It's good to see a strong squad. It's just Moyes plays them in the wrong positions. Saturday's second half, we were a laughing stock. I talked about this earlier on the show, Johnny. I think we just took our foot off the pedal in the second half. We've done the job, and I think given the games coming up, with an unknown Freiburg on Thursday. Then we got Newcastle on Sunday. I kind of get why we took our foot off the pedal. It's not as if Sheffield United were all over us. They weren't. Even though we took our foot off the pedal, they did absolutely nothing. Moisaurus, good evening to you. Who do alcoholics support Sheffield United because it's a pub team? Who do alcoholics? They're in the Premier League and they're in the Premier League on credit. They're not being flown in there. They qualify. They got promoted. They deserve to be there. They're not very good, but they deserve to be there. Kenneth, do you think Souček is better than Kudus? No, never. Kudus can equally score. Why not rotate? This is a shame. I don't disagree with you. I don't think Kudus is not bad. I think Kudus is a very, very good footballer. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. It's not that I'm suggesting that Kudus shouldn't start. I think Kudus should start. But as I keep asking, who would you trot? A lot of people have said already it should be, of all players, it should be Souček. Jason, thanks and agreed. Bench Antonio. There will likely be an Alvarez suspension soon, 2 in the league. Kudus will get game time in that as well. That's very true. You drop Ward-Prowse and Souček in defensive midfield, and then Kudus will play in the team. Absolutely. Lee, you're a guru? Tell me I'm not. Don't sell yourself short. Great show. Thank you very much. I'm definitely not a guru. David, we do have to rotate, and there will be players that will not start as much as some of us fans want. This is the new reality of a good squad. Bang on. This is it. Isn't that what we want? Isn't that what we crave? I wonder if Man City fans sit there and go, why is our £100 million player always on the bench? Why is, sort of our best young player for a decade on the bench? Are Man City fans having the same sort of conversations when they look at the bench and they look at a multi-million pound squad sitting there waiting to get game time? Why can't we be the same? Why can't we have very good players on the bench waiting for their time in case either someone gets injured or someone starts not performing, etc., and then Moyes can rotate them? Why not? Isn't that the signs of a good squad? Alan, my team for Freiburg: Fabianski, Kera, Mavropanos, Ogbonna, Emerson, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, Kudus, Benrahma, Cornet, Mumbama. What did I say is likely to start? My likely lineup, I think, you got them all right apart from you got them all right. No, the only different one is Mumbama. I'd like for Mumbama to start. I think Antonio will, but not a bad selection. Not a bad selection. Schizo. Moyes may feel he has to play Ings to justify Danny's salary, but if Mumbama was to score more goals, the improved league position would be greater. We're losing money, not saving it. I don't disagree. Schizo. I do like Mumbama. I thought he would get more game time. Given that we didn't send him out on loan, I genuinely thought he would get more game time. And I'm disappointed for the lad that he's not getting more game time. James, Kudus progresses the ball and creates more goals. You're preaching to the converted. We know this. I think you think that I'm suggesting that I don't like Kudus. I do like Kudus. I think he's a fantastic player. Anyway, Kudus progresses the ball and creates more goals, goal scoring opportunities than Bowen and Paquetá. If it's Paquetá and Bowen that were, if Paquetá and Bowen were exceptional, then they should be winning games against the big teams. Well, they are. Um, Bowen is our top goal scorer at the moment. Paquetá needs to do a few more assists, etc. So you're suggesting that maybe then we should be dropping either Paquetá or Bowen for Kudus. Bold move. James, to Andrew, 100% correct. What did Andrew say? Can't remember. I guess the Fickletons have moved on to the next hate figure. Embarrassing, really. It's not so much fickle. I like people's opinions, but we've got good players, and it's a good thing that we've got decent players on the bench that we have to that we are waiting to get their turn. Moyes Moyes puts on a panda outfit for Rice, lets him take the penalties, free kicks for. Well, it was wrong. I even said it back then. It was the wrong thing to do, absolutely the wrong thing to do, to give Declan Rice the freedom of the park to do what he wanted. It disrupted the whole team. Iron ore. Rice wanted the kudos by doing what Souček did, and I don't think he can do it as well. He absolutely can't, and I guarantee you, Souček will get more goals than Declan Rice from midfield this season. How many has Rice got? None. So far, Souček in all competitions has got 3. Keith, Souček was great for us to start with. Last season, it was poor. Rice goes and Souček is now old Souček. I think we've solved the problem. Absolutely. Hammerett, it's so much better having the debates we've been having this season. Which informed player can we justify taking out to play another quality signing? Absolutely. Good evening to you. I'm Awala. Since Declan Rice has gone, Souček and Soufal have played a lot better. The whole team has. The whole team. Ward-Prowse has come in. He's scoring goals and making assists. Alvarez is doing the dirty work in the middle of the park because he loves doing it. Central defensive midfielder, which is what Declan Rice was really good at until Declan Rice thought that he was better than that. What a shame. Because guess what Declan Rice is playing now at Arsenal? Defensive holding midfielder. Keith, yes, ain't it great to have a dilemma as to who to play? It's fantastic. Trenny, Kudus does not play central midfield. He does. So how is he not being compared to Souček? Well, he does play central midfield. He plays in several different positions. He plays out wide. He can play as a false number 9. He can play as a second striker. He can play as central attacking midfield as well. He can play in the Souček role. With Kudus or Bowen up top, there will be no hold-up play, just the ball over the top for their pace, maybe or fast pass and build-up play. No, I don't think, trying to pump the ball over the top for either Kudus or Bowen will be an absolute waste. That's what we do with Antonio, but we won't be trying to do that. We've got ball players in the park. We've got people who can pass the ball. Alvarez can pass. James Ward-Prowse can pass. Paquetá can pass. I think they will get the best out of Kudus or Bowen if they played up top. Good evening, Foxes. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Rani. Antonio hasn't been scoring, but Liverpool aside, he has contributed and been influential in our goals. I think he started the season really well, Rani, and I think he just went flat. And I think he did the assist at the weekend. Just like I said earlier in the show, just when you think he's not giving anything, he comes up with an assist, and it was a great assist. I'm not suggesting for a minute. Last season, I will admit, I had a bit of a downer on Antonio. I just didn't think Antonio was pulling it his weight anymore. I didn't think he was really up to it. This season, he's absolutely delightedly surprised me with his performances. They've been great, but he has been off the ball the last few games. Mark. Maybe at the moment, Kudus should play when we need to unlock low block defenses. Souček should play the other games. Yeah, but can you see Moyes dropping Souček whilst he's in the form he is? I'm not so sure. How far behind am I? Not too far. Schizo. Maybe many fans have alternative formations and permutations. Some even have ways to utilise Ings. Even though we're doing well, it has to be admitted that Moyes limits what we can try. Moyes limits what we can try because he insists on playing one up top. I don't disagree with that. And I think, if he's going to continue, as he does continue to do that, there's not much point in having Danny Ings in the side. I'd much rather have Mbama, or I'd much rather have Kudus and Bowen in the side. And I think that's a shame. Moyes has got a certain style of play, but it's been effective. Andrew, Moyes shouldn't have signed, no. I really don't agree with that one. Moyes should have signed Traore from Wolves, closest he would ever get to Antonio. Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying, but I think Traore is an awful, awful footballer, to be honest with you. Sean, word on the street is Haaland has just found his way out of Ballon Dawson's pocket. He played a good game against him, didn't he? Trini, I'm not talking about achieving anything. I'm simply talking about giving young players actual game time. It's not rocket science. Yeah, well, the trouble is, when do you play them, though, Trini? You know, I would have liked to have seen more of Mumbama, at least in the cup competitions. And I'm kind of really hoping that we will get, we might get to see him this coming Thursday, or get to see some of him this coming Thursday. At this moment in time, we've got a pretty decent squad. So it kind of does not surprise me that, we're talking about struggling to get Kudus in the team. And now we're talking about trying to get the youngsters in the team. Like I've said earlier, there's Mavropanos, there's Kudus, there's Fornals, there's several players, even Ben Rama, when he can be on it, we've got a number of players in the squad that are not getting as much game time as fans would like to see. It doesn't surprise me in the least that we're not getting to see much of the young players, but I do think the cup competitions is, I think I was surprised we didn't see more youngsters in the cup game against Lincoln. We're certainly not going to see any in the cup game against Arsenal. I doubt very much we're going to see any youngsters in Europa League until we secure our top position in that league. So maybe if we win our first 4 games and we've secured top place, then you might see some youngsters in then. But at this moment in time, given that we can't even accommodate some of the decent senior players that we've got in the squad, I'm not surprised that we're not getting to see many of the young players either. James, we have to measure West Ham against the big teams. Why aren't they winning against the big teams with Bowen and Paquetá? West Ham should be the new Arsenal, but we compromise with this squad. That's a good shout. It's a good shout. I accept that. I think we should be measuring ourselves against the big teams. Newcastle, are they now classed as a big team? Let's see how we get on against them at the weekend. Robert, I owe a charity £10 if Bowen signs, remember? Yeah, and I owe them a tenner if he doesn't sign. But I think you better get your 10 quid ready. Emsco, I really love to see Kudus play more time. He's got a lot to show. Still wondering who he can replace. Looking how solid the squad is currently. This is the argument. This is the debate, isn't it? The fact that it's really difficult to determine who's going to play, who's going to be rotated in his squad. Now, I'm going to take, I need a drink. So give me a second and then we'll talk about the team that we're going to be playing this coming Thursday. So the game on Thursday, we're playing FC Freiburg, as I'm sure you all know. The game that we're banned to go to watch, unfortunately, is such a shame. It's such a shame because it's of all the games that we would have liked to have been banned for, we kind of hoping it was going to be the game against the Serbian team, TSC, but unfortunately not. We still don't know. We're still waiting for news to come out about tickets for the away game against Olympiacos. I kind of think it's going to happen, but in the back of my mind, I keep thinking it might not. So the only other game that we were hoping to go to was the game against Freiburg, but unfortunately, it's not meant to be. Freiburg in the Schwarzwald Stadium, 34,700 capacity. They're currently they were 5th. Sorry, I didn't update that. They're currently 8th in their league. Right, let's tell you a little bit about them because just mentioned they're 8th in the league. They won 3, drawn 1, lost 2. They've scored just 10 goals in total, which is averaging out at 2 goals a game. But they have conceded 13 goals. However, they beat Olympiacos in their first game in the Europa League a few weeks ago, where they beat them 3-2 away from home. So that either means that they're better than we think, or Olympiacos are not as good as we think. Their danger player is a right winger called Salai, 26 years of age. He's a Hungarian international. He's already got 3 goals this season, right winger. So they're not scoring a lot of goals. They're kind of sharing their goals out, but he's their top goal scorer as it stands. Their manager, Christian Streich, no honours to talk about. He's been managing the team for a good couple of years now, and they qualified for Europa League 2 seasons in a row. Look, they're a bit of a dark horse. They're doing reasonably well in the Bundesliga. They're doing okay. They're kind of at the moment, if you want to describe them in any way, they're kind of like the Brentford of the German Bundesliga. Look, the style of play that they play, I don't think we're gonna find it. I'm almost hesitant to say that I think we should go out and win this game. I think we've got a good enough squad to do so, but it really, really, really does boil down to as to who we play, who David Moyes picks. Because as I said at the start of the show, when you look at the squad, when you look at the kind of the lineup that David Moyes would normally put out in a cup competition, this is the kind of lineup that you would expect to see. I said earlier on, the goalkeeper, Fabianski, then the back four, Kehrer, Mavropanos, Ogbonna. I don't think Creswell will be fit for this game, so it's likely to be Johnson at left back. That's all right. It's not too bad. I really don't think this is an Ings kind of game, but I'm fearful that he might play Ings, but that's who has been starting in the cup competitions for us so far. And then, in midfield with Kudus, a mix of either Ward-Prowse or Souček. Fornals will play. Ben Rama's likely to play. And possibly Cornet might get another shout. I think it's more likely that Moyes might take this a little bit more seriously and go with this sort of lineup. The back four, as I said, the same. Goalie, as I said, the same. And then he will put in, with Kudus, he will put in James Ward-Prowse, Souček, Fornals, Ben Rama, and quite possibly Antonio up front. I think he might go a little bit. He might even go a little bit stronger. He might even put Paquetá in that starting lineup in order to make sure that we get us over the line. Because it's such an unknown. They're doing all right. They're a half decent team, but they do get. They have been beaten pretty easily. I think they got beaten by Stuttgart a few weeks ago. I think it was something like 5-0. So they can be got at. They're Freiburg. They're a team that can be got at, but it all boils down to who is likely to start. It's not an Ings game. I really hope we don't, with the greatest of respect to him, I really hope we don't see him play. Bowen is going to be not fit for this game. He'll be ready for the Newcastle game. So Moyes has got an option there. He's got a decision to make as to who he puts in up front. I personally would like to see Mumbama start. As Trini has been saying, why not give youth a chance, etc.? If there's one game, it's an unknown. And that might be such an unknown that Freiburg may not be able to know how to deal with him. Is he ready? I don't know. I think in order to be sure of the game, it's quite possible that you'll see Antonio playing. If you do, then obviously we take every game seriously. But it won't surprise me if there's a stronger lineup on Thursday than we would normally expect. But that leads into Sunday, into the game against Newcastle. Can Antonio, with the greatest of respect to him, play 2 games in close succession? I'm not so sure. A year ago, 2 years ago, I would have said, yeah, quite possibly. Can he do it now? He looks like he's labouring. I don't know why. I don't think he's carrying a knock or anything like that, but it looks like he's labouring. So, they're a team to be a little bit wary of, and we've got to treat them with respect, and we've got to keep their right winger, Salai, quiet. You might even see Emerson start in order to make sure that Salai is kept quiet. But it's going to be an interesting game, and it's going to be very interesting to see how we line up against them. I'm going to do a bit more of a detailed preview of the game coming up, probably on Tuesday or Wednesday, so look out for that. But I think if we beat Freiburg, we'll go on and win this league. Olympiacos, yeah, they're doing all right in their league, but the Greek league is not a very strong league in itself. So we go out and beat Freiburg. That sets a marker for us in Europa League in our group stage. And if we beat them on Thursday, I think we'll go on and win our little group stage pretty easily. Right. Let's go into your chat again. Kenneth, Premier League is warming up. Reality will settle in. Over hyper players will be in the bin. We need to rotate. We're not there yet. It's embarrassing how we overhype players. You don't buy Kudus and bench. Who do you drop? David M. Can you tell me still how long before Bowen got his first game? Kudus sadly had to wait patiently. It was I did have that stat and I forgot to write it down, but he didn't start straight away. I remember when Bowen was bought, he came on as a sub and then on the bench, on as a sub, on the bench. It took quite a few games for him to start. That's a really, really good point. Keith again. Kudus has played every position for Ajax apart from left wing and keeper. Obviously, he can play anywhere. He can. And a lot of people have been saying play him out on the left side. He's not he's a left footer, but he's not a left-sided player. Let's scroll down. Schizo. The progressive run we saw from Kudus on Saturday indicates that he may well be capable of playing the Antonio role. He has good balance and strength, showed in Ajax that he knows how to score. Bang on. This is why I suggested when we were looking at buying Kudus that he could be an Antonio alternative. You're absolutely right there. Sean, ego gone wild. Trudge, I got slagged for calling it out early. Ego, I don't know. You would explain. Andrew, need to play our near strongest selection on Thursday. Otherwise, we will get nothing. Don't underestimate Freiburg. They're a good side. Exactly that. That's why I've got a dilemma when I'm thinking about who Moyes is going to play. And as I said earlier in the show, it's disappointing that certain players have not really taken their opportunities, like Cornet, Ben Rama's blown hot and cold, etc. Ings, because if they've been on fire, scoring goals and making goals and doing really well when we're playing in cup competitions, then David Moyes will have, it won't be a difficult choice to make. He'll be putting all these players in the game against Freiburg because he'll trust them. But unfortunately, they're not hitting, they're not on fire, are they? So it's going to be interesting to see what choices Moyes makes. Martin, how far behind am I now? We're 10 minutes ish. I completely agree. Part of the reason the team are playing better is down to the sale of Declan. I don't know if people want to admit it, but it's absolute fact. Funky T. We have such a depth in squad, 2 for each position. They're all great players. Doesn't matter what team we put out. We are a threat. Every time we get the ball, I'm expecting us to score. That's good to hear. I think, I'd like to. I kind of slightly disagree with you on that. We've got a good player for every position. I want to see more of Cornet. I want to see more of Ings. But then is that Ings' fault? The style of football we play, well up front, doesn't suit him. But we've got a good squad. Absolutely. Kenneth. So is Moyes always going to play his one-way team in the Premier League? This makes me sad. The other team will pick out tactics up and fry us. No. He's got a better balanced team, which will, again, Kenneth, you keep thinking that Kudus is not going to get game time in the Premier League. I disagree. I think he will. Trini, for instance, every time Moyes brought on Ings, in my opinion, it should have been... I really, really don't disagree with that. I would really, really like to see how Mbama would do in the game time that Ings has got. I don't disagree with that at all. Rani, gutted Mbama wasn't on the bench this weekend. Would have been a perfect game for him, minutes-wise. Hammerette, don't the side all look so happy when they're on the pitch. They're enjoying themselves, and it's great to see again. Rice was quality, but the team are now shackle-free, it seems. It is true. It is true. Kenneth, you're doing a good job. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And I really appreciate your comments as well. Debenham Dave, not sure we will all agree, but I'm happy. Not sure we all will agree. I'm happy and optimistic. Hammer think things are looking up. Our 3rd season in Europe in the cabinet, good cup in the cabinet, good start to the league, good squad depth. And isn't that what it's all? Aren't we happy? Surely we're all happy, no? Andrew, maybe not everybody. Andrew, I'm not endorsing signing Traore. Thank God for that, Andrew. But Moyes cannot seem to look beyond the type of player leading the line, as Hilaire and Skamaka found out. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I mean, but the thing is, a few people, Andrew, have suggested signing Traore in the past, and I was like, what? But I know you're not endorsing it. I know. But you're saying similar in style. Yeah. He's a poor man's Antonio. Hammerette, absolutely agree. There's a total difference atmosphere on the pitch. You can see it. Same players, different team. Isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it great? Scott, good evening to you. I hope you're well. P-Man, I don't know where Dodsey is. Probably sleeping at this time. He did a show for me the other day when I was ill, and I'm grateful for that when he was making his way to Lincoln. So really appreciated him doing that. James. Absolutely, D. Dave. I can see all the doom and gloom. I can't see all the doom and gloom. We're massive. Sean, they're 8, same points as us. No, we got 13. They got 10. Unless they. No, yeah, I looked at that today. Let's scroll down. Trudge, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. I wanted that Cesc goal from Red Bull Leipzig, but will cost twice as much now. There's a lot. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in January. Going to be interesting. I hope we don't make the same mistake as we did a couple of Januaries ago when we didn't sign anyone when we were in the Europa League then. I hope Moyes has learned his lesson from that at least. Hammer it. Freiburg won't be an easy game, but with the quality we have, I'm confident we'll beat them. Squeaky bums. 20 million is their most expensive signing at the moment. We should have better players available. Absolutely. Let's not underestimate them, but yeah, I think we should have enough to beat them. Adam, Freiburg will be a hard game. I hope for a win, but I think it will be a draw, but not Ings. And if Antonio starts, Mbama should come on second half. I don't know if Ings will. I've got a feeling that Ings won't start this game. Hammer Molder, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. I'm very well. I hope you are too, mate. Moisaurus. Freiburg started off as the official cooks from the Freikorps military volunteers. Their burgers were popular with the soldiers. I'm going to believe you. And if you're winding me up, you're winding me up, but I'm going to believe you. Trudge, we need to test if Kehrer can play a central defensive midfielder as no Alvarez come. That's a good shout. I know a lot of people suggested that in pre-season. I know he's played, didn't he have a few minutes in the pre-season friendly where he played there? I like Kehrer. You're spot on. If Alvarez is not available, what then? Every time Alvarez, I said this earlier in the show, every time Alvarez has come off either through a knock or whatever for a substitution, etc., we kind of look a little bit lost in that midfield without him. Eric John. Creswell, no, please. He can keep getting sent off in Europe. I think, as another player, I said earlier in the show, we were trying to sell Cornet, we were trying to sell Ings, and we were also trying to sell Creswell as well. Those are the three players that have stayed. I wonder what would have happened if we had sold any of those three. Hammer it. Mavropanos and Kudus will start. Possibly Cornet's final chance to impress. It would be his final. If he does start, it would be his final chance. Johnny. Please put Mbama rather than Ings. Yeah, I would not disagree. Again, what Andrew's saying, Ings, surely not. No, what I said earlier was this is the kind of team that Moyes has been using in cup competitions so far with Ings up front. What I think will happen is likely to be that. But I totally agree. I'd like to see Mbama. Don't play Antonio. We need him for Sunday. So give Mbama a chance. Will he get his chance? I don't know, unfortunately. Greeno, good evening to you. I hope you're well. What have I missed apart from another Liverpool appeal against the nasty? What are they planning? I talked about this earlier in the show. What are they planning to get from that? A replay? Because I'll tell you something, if they get anything from this, either a point or a replay or anything at all, any kind of compensation at all, the floodgates are wide open with every bad VAR decision ever made. Can you imagine it? Not going just back this season, but clubs have been relegated because of, I don't know if that's happened, but clubs, we've been victim of VAR many a time. What are we going to do? Turn around and say we want compensation as well in some format? I don't know. Moisaurus. Creswell has been a great servant, but I heard he's in training is now a replacement for a traffic cone. For P-Man. Ben Johnson is a championship right back. I find it astonishing when people talk about his versatility. Paul Parker's nephew or not, he isn't good enough. Well, he was good enough. He fell away really, really badly last season. Don't disagree with you on that. But ironically, every time he plays as a left back, he seems to play better. And by all accounts, from what we heard, he played pretty well. All right, I know it was against Lincoln, but he played pretty well in the cup last week. Mark Alvarez is already running for Hammer of the Year, in my opinion. Fantastic! I'm telling you guys, I think he's just absolutely a superb player. I love him. He's a beast, isn't he? You know, in the middle of the park, absolutely amazing. Hammer it, P-Man. The alternative is Cressy back from injury, I presume. Slow as fuck. Well, it's either Creswell or it's Johnson. And at this moment in time, probably go for Johnson. Johnny Alvarez will get cards, unfortunately. He will. He's that type of player. He will get a few bans along the way. Schizo, we'll just continually shackle ourselves by playing Ings rather than Mbama. One almost certainly won't score. One potentially will. I don't disagree. I do want to see Mbama start. I really, really do. And then Sean comes up with, got to be an Ings hat-trick on Thursday. If he scores a hat-trick, well, great. But, you know, Trogs, Ings hat-trick and he will pull off the fake bald cap to reveal a flowing head of Brian, if we beat Newcastle, we will begin getting some respect in the table. I don't feel we are yet. It will be a statement win. I'm going for a win, and I'll be there. I'm going for a win. Keith, to Sean. I just asked Paddy Power what odds on that. They said more chance of a flamingo. We're in the happy hour. You know, we've done an hour and 40 minutes already. Trini, my point about Kudus and Bowen up top means no Moyes ball. We will have to pass fast. And I'm sorry, I misread it earlier. None of which I've seen from us. Oh no, I see you were going so well. I think we have done some great passing and movement, some high. You know, I think we showed that at the weekend. I think we've done it well. We think, you know, but the unfortunate thing is we don't do it consistently. Moyes seems to want to do it against the Lutons and against the Sheffields rather than doing it against other teams, which I think we can do against them. But no, I agree with the first bit. Kudus and Bowen means that we have to pass fast and accurately. Absolutely agree. Let's scroll down. Hammerette. Pray for a win with no injuries on Thursday. Not fussed about exciting football for this one, to be honest. I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm going to be sitting there watching it. By the way, I asked earlier, watch along or not? Let me know. I'm not going to bother doing it if people think it's going to be a waste of time. Hammer it. 202 in this room. Can we all click back one and hit the like? Yes, please. Please, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Also hit the like button and hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm next doing a show. That would be really appreciated. And let me know, do you want me to do a watch along on Thursday or not? I don't mind not doing it, but if you fancy it, I'm happy to sit there in front of a screen telling you what's going on when you're watching it yourselves. Hammer it. Trudge, I'll take the 90 minutes excitement against Arsenal on the first. We'll beat them. We're going to beat them. Keith, HH, you may want to rethink that comment and type differently. Dirty mind, Keith. Dirty mind. Funky T. Okay, agreed. A great squad with the exception of Cornet and Ings. Also agree that you may as well bring Mbama on. He isn't going to do any worse than Ings. No, he's not really. He's not. I'm not trying to convert you. You know, it's my thoughts. You know, and I know a lot don't agree. Einel. I watched their game on Sunday and Moyes won't underestimate them. So I fancy a win. I don't think they would cope with Kudus up front. There you go. Trini, PGMO have admitted, I know they admitted that they messed up and removed the two who were, I know that as well. But are Liverpool looking for any more? I bet they fucking are. Schmiegel, evening, mate. How are you? Sorry, that's no problem. It's my happy birthday, mate. I hope you've had a great day, you know, and you come here to celebrate with us. Happy birthday. I hope you've had a great day. Hammers Chat, West Ham Forum. Good evening to you. Stel, you old night owl. Poor old traffic cones being... Not good, is it? I mean, come on. Poor old Cressy. I hope you're well. Trudge, Marshall reminds me of Steven Gerrard away in the runs he makes. Yeah, he's a good player. He'll be another one to watch out for, Callum Marshall. And people are already suggesting that he's better than Mumbama. Wow. James, I want Compo for all those shocking decisions against us versus the dip. There you go. What will happen? I mean, what are Liverpool after? Keith, I was a member of. Were you? Oh yeah, you were a ref, weren't you? I was a member of the PGMOA, and now it's the PGOL, a limited company. Tell us all we need to know about refereeing now. Oh, what are you suggesting, sir? Alan, I looked at the Newcastle injuries for the weekend and it made me happy. I think their injuries are cleared up. I could be wrong. Joe Linton, Barnes, Botman, Willock, Gordon suspended. We need to really go for it while we have the chance. We should go for every game. Epic. Newcastle is missing quite a few. Am I wrong? I thought I read today that they got quite a lot coming back. I hope you're right. David M. What about the blatant offside goal that was given to Liverpool against? Exactly. How far back do you go for compensation? Andrew, Ollie Skiles is going to save us millions. He looks the real deal. Probably next season will be his breakthrough. We've got a lot of decent. What's been good, and I said this, I said it during last season, I said this earlier this season, is what's been good is the under 18, quite a bulk of the under 18 squad have now moved from the under 18s into the under 21. So they've all gone and bulk. Like it's about 6 or 7 players, maybe a few more. Ollie Skiles is one of them. Now they're playing in the under 21s and they're playing regularly and they're doing pretty well. So you're going to hope that we're going to get 1 or 2 players that are going to break through. Like I said earlier on, Marshall, we already know about Mumbama. There's a number of players that are doing exceptionally well. And don't forget the players I mentioned earlier who are out on loan. A few players who are doing well out on loan as well. So there's hope. There's hope that we can bring a few players through. Trod just mentioned, I was going to mention Potts is doing great. Freddie Potts is doing fantastically well for Wycombe Wanderers. And that's what we want. We want players to go out on loan, do really well, come back, go in, I'm ready. I want you to pick me. That's the really good thing. Watch along. It's a 5:45 kickoff. I could still do it. I finished work at 4. So there you go. Hammerette, crikey, still I was going to read the poorly written messages from me on here. Yeah. David, wish Sir Trevor Brooking. Oh, God, it is. Happy 75th birthday, Mr. Sir Trev. Forgot about that. Watch along, yeah. Schmiegel. All right, I got 2 saying watch along, I think. I watched Freiburg recent match against Augsburg, and they play a bit like us. They rely heavily on scoring from set pieces. Well, we've got good defenders, so hopefully we can keep them out there. Andrew, I think there are 4 or 5 in our youth system that have huge potential of being first-team players. I just think we have the wrong manager to bring them through. Excuse me. I've had a cold. I don't agree with that. I know I said this earlier in the show that a lot of people think that Moyes really scuppers opportunities for young players. I don't think that's true. If you think about it carefully, not a lot of Premier League managers use that many academy players. In all honesty, Moyes is really no different. And the irony is that Moyes will give them an opportunity when he feels it's right to. Talked earlier about, trying to accommodate the squad that we have, the senior squad that we have. At this moment in time, what chance do our youth team have in hurdling over the senior players are on the bench in order to get game time? But I think Moyes will try and give them game time. Mumbama has been there or thereabouts in the senior squad for the past season or so. I'm hoping he'll get game time. And I think he keeps a close eye on the development squad, the under 18s and the under 21s, to see what's going on there. Freddie Potts has just been mentioned, I think, by Trod. He's doing exceptionally well. I'd like to think that if Potts does well throughout the whole season, he comes back knocking on the door of the senior team. I've been watching too many skipping challenge videos. I don't know what that means. So, and then you've gone on to say, I've no idea what the skipping challenge is. There you go. Nor do we. Amma's chat. It's hang on. Where's my phone? Give me a second. Give me a second. Just talk amongst yourselves for a minute. Is it Gonzo? It is, isn't it? Yes, I thought it was. You know, your name skipped my mind for a second. Hello, Gonzo. I hope you're well. Marshall is top notch, too good for Premier League 2, and he's better. See, better than Mbama. Is he better than Mbama, though? I don't know. I think he's very good. Gonzo, I don't know why your name just skipped my mind. For you know, you have that momentary lapse. It's old age, I think. Hammerit, is he better than Mbama? I think he's doing exceptionally well. I said earlier in the show, he's already scored 10 goals this season, 8 in the league and 2 in the EFL. He's superb, you know, and for these youngsters to go from the under 18s to the under 21s and do as well as they've been doing is phenomenal. Absolutely superb. Hammerit, 100 skips every day in October to raise money for cancer research, friends. Yes. You need to send me proper details, Hammerit, so I can promote it properly for you. Epic. I don't think any youngster is going to break into the first team until Moyes is gone. Again, it's not just a Moyes thing. I don't know how I can iterate this any more clearly. It's not just a Moyes thing. You will find a lot of Premier League managers will be in the same sort of position. James, still, is that a watch along from the actual match in Germany? If so, yeah. We're banned, mate. We're banned. We're not allowed to go. Otherwise, I'd be there and I wouldn't be doing a watch along. Sean, skipping with a rope or just skipping on the way? What are you lot talking about with skipping? Epic. We were 19th in the minutes given to the under. We were 19th in the minutes given to under 21 Premier League players last season. Were we? That's an interesting fact. I'm going to look into that. Schmeichel. Still, what do you think about that striker we've been linked to from Stuttgart? I've forgotten his name. I don't know his name. I've not looked at any transfer stories since the transfer window shut. So you're going to have to find out who it is. CJ, what has happened to Ben Rama? Hero to zero. I wouldn't say hero to zero. Hero to out of form at this moment in time. He'll come back in form. Trodge, I just want someone to explain how Benny had one of the fastest shots last season when he got. Who says he had one of the good penalty taker? Good evening to you, Beats. I hope you're well. Doesn't matter how many injuries Newcastle have. We need to score at least 2 to counter the goal. Callum Wilson is going to inevitably score. He loves playing against West Ham. That is so true. Adam, teams have learned that with Benny, he always wants to be centre back on his left. He wants it back on his left foot and hasn't got the pace to beat players, in my opinion. He does have the pace, but sometimes his end product can be a bit disappointing. Sean, well, that's everything in context. Well, you lot are talking about skipping and stuff. You must all be drunk. Andrew, he played Ings over Mbama against Lincoln. I mean, what is the point? That's why I have reservations about Moyes to bring this crop of youngsters through. Look, I don't disagree. I do think Mbama should be getting a bit more game time, you know, because in all honesty, I think he would be a better option than Ings. I don't disagree with that. Funky T. Wasn't Moyes the manager who gave Rooney his chance in the Everton team at 16? Or have I got that wrong? I think you got that right. Let's scroll down. Sorry, Gonzo. I don't know why your name just completely left my mind. Remind me tomorrow and I'll sort some. You're talking to HH. What else have I got? I'm down to the bottom. The player from Stuttgart called Guruzai. I don't know anything about him, to be quite honest with you. And I don't know if that link is recent. But I swear to you, I won't be talking about transfers until just before the transfer window opens, because a lot of it's a load of rubbish anyway. Epic. Moyes played Rooney because of an injury crisis at Everton, not because he wanted to give him a chance. There's your answer to that one. I'm done. Just short of 2 hours. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for commenting. Thank you all for making me forget things. It's old age. Gonzo, really sorry, mate. Oh, by the way, I'll message you. I'm trying to get Gonzo to come on the channel to do a Friday night live with me. That'd be good. So now you're in it now, Gonzo. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for all your comments. Keep me on my toes all the time. I'll be back with a couple of pre-recorded updates. Certainly a more detailed preview of the game against Freiburg coming up, and any other news. There literally isn't. You know, when I asked earlier today about, you know, is there any gossip, any news, etc., and I was told there's nothing. And then I got an email from West Ham United. They do like an embargoed list, and I read the email and I thought, fuck me, that's not news. And apparently today, West Ham United's commitment to equality, diversity, and inclusion has been recognised with the highest Premier League award. It's great that we are recognised for equality, diversity, and inclusion. I'm not saying it's not important, don't get me wrong, but I just thought, am I going to put that on the show? And I thought, no one's going to really listen to it. So there you go. That was the news that broke out today. Karen Brady was awarded, and West Ham United was awarded with an EDI award by the Premier League today. So there's your breaking news. But other than that, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for taking part. Really much appreciated. I'll see you all soon. And yeah, come on, you irons.